So. Okay. All right. So for those of you who are still out there driving behind bicycles or thinking about what you were doing before you got here, or thinking about what you're going to do next, pause that train of thought and just try to bring your mind to the present. And then the easiest way to do that is to kind of notice the sensations in the body, your body touching the chair, the cushion, really feeling that sensation, noticing the temperature in the room against the skin, any sounds you hear. Just paying attention to what's happening now. And taking a few deep breaths can help you settle the mind, kind of break the interest in whatever it is your mind's talking about to just following the breath. And let your breath, the exhales of your breath, just, release all the busyness, any tension in the body. And allow yourself to be peaceful here. Try to bring to mind the reason you decided to show up today. And then based on that reason, make a strong intention to use this time well. And make it as expansive as possible, thinking something like, in using this time well, may it benefit my mind, my peace of mind, my understanding of my mind, and may that ripple out to benefit those around me and around them, and so on. So now we'll recite the 4 measurables. That's where we start, isn't it? Oops.
Are you going to share them, Venerable, or you want me to share?
Do you have them up? I don't have them open yet, but I'm happy to share.
Okay, I do have them open. Let me
Go ahead then. I'll be
share.
faster.
Yeah.
So they're on page 34, I think, in the prayer book, if you can't read the screen. Can you enlarge the font on, whatever you do, Nana, to make it bigger? Just the print. I think there's a plus sign above it. Yeah, that one. You can go, yep. Yep, one more. Maybe that's all it will do. And then scroll. Oh, maybe scroll up on page 34. Thank you. So try to picture yourself surrounded by all the people of your life. Co-workers, friends, family. We can send these messages of love and compassion out towards real people that we know and people we don't know, but that we're concerned about. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness.
May all sentient beings be free from suffering, the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering.
And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. It's so cute, you know? So, yeah, I do like us to pause in between lines just so we can kind of take in what we just said, and actually think about the people that we're visualizing in front of us, instead of just saying the words. It can be helpful to do it that way. I have no control over, however, how that whether people keep going or not. And I just pause myself and see if anybody notices. There's no need to notice. So, and then we go to page 98. Or refuge in bodhicitta. I don't pause on this one just because I like to be difficult. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Thanks, Nana. Okay. So I was thinking on the way here about ways in which we could practice focusing. And so driving is one of those ways, like not running over the bicycle riders in front of you is always a good start for the day. How many people, when you get in the car, turn on the radio or some such thing? Consider not doing that and paying attention to driving. Our need to be entertained constantly keeps our mind in motion constantly. It just pulls us to this, to that, to this, to that, to this, to that. So to practice controlling where your mind goes, you need to have good conditions to do that. Quiet is a way better condition than TV, radio, podcast, whatever. So we need to make that happen because the world's not making that happen at all. You can't go anywhere. You can go outside of a restaurant and think, oh, now I'm safe. And no, they have speakers. They have TV screens everywhere. It's just, so we have to take advantage of our opportunities. So when we do that, the second part is that we have to pay attention to what we're doing. So if you're taking a walk, you pay attention to walking. If you exercise walk, then you really just pay attention to walking. If you don't exercise walk, if you're really just walking for your mind, for just, to kind of breathe air, then you can, like if you see something beautiful, like a beautiful tree or a beautiful flower, you stop and you look. And then you resume walking. You don't do two things at once. So you go, shock of all shocks, alone, without the headphones, for at least, say, 10 minutes. And just practice. Oh, I forgot. So, you realize, oh, I'm daydreaming, or I'm thinking about some meeting, or I'm thinking about the movie I watched last night, or whatever it is, but you just keep coming back. I'm walking now. Because it's a discipline. And this is the way we can slow everything down. We are such in the habit of chasing entertainment, chasing input, that we really go looking for it all the time. So in order to not have so many thoughts in our mind, we need to cut down the input, to practice, to give ourselves situations to practice. Oh, I'm not following that right now, that storyline. I'm just walking, or I'm just driving. I'm just drinking a glass of water. I'm just sipping tea. There are innumerable opportunities, but we have to make it happen. It's not going to just happen. And there are a couple of things you might discover. It takes a while, first of all, to succeed, to actually just pay attention to walking. That takes a while. And it doesn't matter that you have to keep pulling your mind back. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm walking. I'm not talking. I'm not listening, to the radio. Blah, blah, blah. It takes a while. But once you realize, oh, I'm doing pretty good. That doesn't mean you haven't gone elsewhere. Doing pretty good means, you go elsewhere, you come back. Go elsewhere, you come back. That's all it means, You're following your instructions. So you might discover it's incredibly restful. It's really restful not to chase all the inputs. Like if you're worried about something and you take a break from that, it's rejuvenating, because it is exhausting to follow the mind. Because it's going all over which way. It's an out of control mind. When we develop some control over our mind, we can choose what to chase or not to chase at all.
Is this a walking meditation?
It can be a walking meditation. Yeah, it's a walking meditation. We can make it into a walking meditation. Just walking won't do that. You have to choose to focus on what you're doing. And that doesn't mean, like the Japanese have a method of this incredible slow walking where they pause when they raise their foot, they pause when it moves a little forward, they pause when it goes down. That's not, you don't have to do that. That's also a practice, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about allowing your mind to keep coming back to what you're actually doing. And you're disciplining your mind by telling it what to do. I do this with brushing my teeth, I just move my, when I realize, okay, I've brushed that tooth about 5 minutes worth, I'd have to come back and get, blah, blah. That's pretty boring. I confess that's boring. Walking meditation is more pleasant, but I still do the toothbrush meditation just because I need the discipline. It's just a practice because it is boring. I don't like boring, and that's a mistake I make because I'm confusing quiet, calmness, peaceful with boring, and they're not the same. So sure, being mindful while I brush my teeth is boring compared to the peacefulness of walking meditation. I need the discipline of doing it while it's boring in order to remember to do it while I'm walking. I'm a really hard case. So, we have to learn to know ourselves. But if we want a little less chaos in the head, a little less angst or worry or that sick feeling of like, oh, I have no control over anything and it's all bad, whatever it is. I don't know where your mind runs. We need a break from that. And we need a break from it every day, not just when things get really tough, because then we won't have the skill. So we need to develop the skill, and it doesn't take forever. It just takes some consistency for a period of time, and you do it whether you want to or not. So it becomes a habit. And then, I don't know, but, people who meditate regularly, on the cushion or something, you become conditioned to when you go to your cushion and you sit down, you know exactly what to do. You've already made the choice. I'm going to go meditate, and so you're in place. But because you practice so long, it's like you're not fighting the struggle anymore. It's no longer like gritting your teeth and bearing it. Some people like meditation. That's how they start. I was not one of those. So, I had to work up to it. And I had to make myself do it. But now I don't have to at all. I mean, it's just like sitting on this teaching seat. I just immediately, it's like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do now. I may be insane, but I know what I'm supposed to do. I may be wildly nervous or whatever, but there's a calm in the body that just comes from being someplace very familiar. And that familiarity, we like it. We like familiarity, which is why the teachings always say, you need to become more familiar. So it becomes something we're accustomed to. Does anybody have any or had any experience with doing something that or being around people you really don't like, but they're familiar? So you just keep hanging out with them. I mean, we do this, and it's because we're familiar. We know what to expect. We like that, So we want to develop some skill that becoming familiar with something that benefits us, So it's helpful to be able to choose an activity, choose to make it a mindful activity, and then do it. And sometimes the hardest step, is just do it. You set an alarm on your phone going, oh, it must be time for my walking meditation. And you just do it. Because we really won't know the benefit until we do it. We won't give it a chance to become a habit if we don't do it. So you can play games with yourself, like, okay, well, I'll do it because I'm going to walk to the coffee shop. So I have a reward at the end of doing it. Whatever we need. You know, so for me with my teeth, it was always, well, I have terrible teeth. So I mean, it's like, how many crowns do you want? How many, I'm working towards my second implant, it's just I have terrible teeth. So, they hurt less because I take care of them. Doesn't mean they don't fall apart because I have terrible teeth. That's just my reality of my karma and my teeth. So, you know, motivation matters. So it's helpful to kind of think, why do I want to do this? So what are some reasons you might want to do it? Yeah.
Well, for me, I can relate to what you said about when I first started meditating each day. It was hard.
Right.
And for me, I think one of the reasons is because there were feelings that I hadn't processed,
Yep.
and you got to be still to feel that, whatever, the grief, the emotional pain that we all deal with. And, but then, yeah, I had the experience of like over time, it's almost like I mean, this isn't the right verb, but like almost crave it, like
You need it.
feeds my soul,
Yeah.
and I guess the simplest way I can put it is, for me, I notice in the morning, it clears out the fear-based energy. I mean, of course, not entirely, but you know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah,
then it
it's not
brings in-
magic.
And then it brings in the love energy. And so I'm way more efficient, like, efficient with my time. Like, I'm an efficient person, but I know intuitively what I should prioritize, and I waste less time.
Yeah. The more
I'm
we're
just able to
focused, the less time we
flow,
waste.
Be more thoughtful with my words, be more patient. Yeah.
So these are the kind of things you want to notice when you try to develop a new habit. Has anything changed? Because that will help motivate you to keep doing it. Before you get that habit, what do you need to think about? What might be helpful?
Why am I doing this?
Yes. And what might be a reason?
Benefits?
Benefits, yes. There's some benefit to it. What specific benefits might there be? You have to come up with something for you. Yes. Reducing stress. What's a benefit that might be for you, Mary Ann?
Being more in control of my mind and my thoughts.
Be more in control of your mind and your thoughts. Yeah. We want, and in these motivations will change, like because of something going on. And you might go, oh, I need this because, I really want to be able to not have my mind go towards worry, or not have my mind go towards anger, or not have my mind goes towards, whatever. It's really important to recognize that it is able to want these things for ourselves, to have less stress, to have more control, to have da 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 da. And that, but we have to link the activities with it. We're not in control over lots of aspects of our life, right? I mean, like our work sets a lot of, sets a lot of things around us. Our responsibilities to our families and to our, whatever they are, dogs, Now we choose to do them, hopefully, because we care about our family and our dogs. But, we need to, so when you're doing something just for you, that's going to interfere with your time for your family and your pets, you need to come up with reasons that will help you do it.
I don't like meditating, and I feel, and I tell myself, I can still have a Buddha nature and not meditate.
Of course, Buddha nature has nothing to do with whether you meditate or not. You can't become a Buddha without it, but that's all right.
So then I tell myself, I really want,
Okay.
Have to meditate.
Yeah, you kind of right there.
My
Yeah, but you need to find a method that works for you. Not everybody's ever going to sit on a cushion, ever. I mean, or even a chair. Yeah,
I
okay.
can sit in a chair.
You can sit in a chair
Yeah.
and you can focus on something.
I mean, I could try. I don't find breath. I don't have wonderful. benefits.
Yeah, but, well,
People do.
no, they have a result. Guess what? You don't have the benefits at first. What you have at first is resistance. Well, I don't want to do. I mean, you couldn't have been more resistant than I was. I mean, it just really like, bleh, didn't like it, thought it was stupid. I mean, there's just nothing in my mind was
Don't
particular.
get stupid, but I don't like when, and
We see you're already overcome one hurdle I had. Hey, you know,
I get physical things. I want to itch. I want to scratch.
that's just what we do. Our mind chases
So what do I do with
entertainment. You just go, oh, isn't that interesting?
that?
I know. It's like, and it will stop. That's what's so interesting.
For me, I see that when you're not meditating, you're training to be meditating. When you're meditating, you're training not to be the time that you're not meditating. So like when you're
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
like when you're meditating, you're training for the time that you're not meditating.
Oh,
When you're not meditating, you're training for the time that you're meditating. Yeah. So for example, if you see it and you itch, like try to pay attention when you're watching TV and it itches, and you just recognize that it's itchy, but you don't itch. So it's not like it eats and you go, and it eats and you go, and eats and you go. When you see it, the same thing is gonna happen because you have not trained yourself for when you see it. And when you see it, you're training your mind for when you're not seeing. Kind of like training the body when you're not seeing, and the mind at the same time, and then training yourself to be out in the world when you're meditating. Kind of like
Yeah, well, we
No.
fight. Well, it's just so funny because we think that we don't have these abilities. Like, oh, I couldn't possibly sit there and not scratch. I couldn't possibly sit there and whatever, not squirm. You know, I can't not squirm either. I felt such relief when I saw His Holiness doing his daily practice. You know, they recorded him one day and, you know, he's kind of, you know, he moves around. I thought, oh, that makes me feel better. Yeah. But that's all because he was doing his practice. So I'm sure when he does meditating, that's not the case. So, but my point is if you think you simply can't do it, you might have to come up with some logic, you know, in your mind about how that's not true. Because if you were holding, you know, a very hot dish and holding a child, you would make sure that even if you got an itch, you didn't scratch it. You wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be any question in your mind that of course you're not going to do that because it might harm the baby. You know, so we do have the ability. And we're just trying to practice the ability so that we get to choose. You know, and the reason why we make that choice with the baby is we've already got that motivation. This baby's precious to me. I don't want to hurt the baby. So we have that's already in play. As soon as you pick up the baby, there's a part of you that wants to make sure you don't drop the baby. You know, and all of us those of us who didn't have babies, we get nervous when somebody hands us the baby. And we're kind of going, I'm not sure I know how to hold the baby. Yeah. So, but you know, so it's about recognizing that, okay, so you itch. Isn't that interesting? Do I have to act on it? No. Does it irritate me? Yes. You know, it's not like you have to feel good about itching. We don't have to like every experience we have. That's one of the trainings that we're trying to figure out. Is that minor dissatisfaction is something that if we can learn to tolerate, that helps us tolerate major, you know, difficulties. Because if you can't even tolerate an itch, don't get any older. But anyway,
Some people are lucky enough to, after a few weeks of meditating, they realize there's some good feeling in there, and they like that feeling.
Mm.
And as opposed to telling yourself, boy, I really don't want to sit down and meditate, I just don't like that. You tell yourself, I'm looking forward to this. This is like my favorite aunt, uncle, or favorite best friend coming to visit me. They're gonna be here in a half hour. I can hardly wait for that meditation of my favorite friend.
well, and this is a thing of the point about meditation, about motivation, that we have to go, I'd really like to reduce stress in my life. I'm worth it. You know? So I need to do things that will help me do that.
So it's a part of self.
Well, if you do the logic, you have to think about it. You can't just take my word for it. Yeah. And it's not working for you. So you need, so this is the thing, you have to kind of go, I'm curious. You might just be curious. I'm curious if I can actually sit and derive some benefit from it.
I think it's helpful,
Speak up, please.
once you have motivation, but yeah, you do this, but aren't good at it. There's no good or bad, but if you use small increments, you give yourself positive reinforcement quickly, which people like, I'll paraphrase, but the Dalai Lama, when he discussed meditation, one of the first times I read what he did, start with this simple, calm, abiding 5 breaths. He could get from 5 breaths without an outside thought.
Yes.
And then increase it to 10. And before you know it, you'll be at 20 breaths with no outside thoughts. And maybe some will come, maybe some.
Well,
won't.
let's clarify that. I don't want to say before you know it.
Yeah. Well, you will get to where.
And if you
are
do
able
the
to do
practice,
it longer than you thought.
yes, and we all can do it more. But it is hilarious when you first try. This is one of the beginning meditations are things like count your breath. See if you can get to 7. And like you discover, I can't get to 7. And so you kind of laugh because it's funny. This is not a big deal if you can't hold your attention on your breath 7 times. I mean, like the world is not going to end if you can't do it. It is really just about going, oh, this is interesting, and it isn't about actually being able to hold your attention on your breath or 7 breaths. It's more of just this kind of thing. I don't want to lose count, or whatever. I mean, you just start to, it's kind of like you have to relax a little to even be able to do it. But if you can't get to 7, then you go with 3 and you start over, get to, 3, and you go 1 and then 2 and then 3. This is the method. And then you bump it up to 5. Ooh. You don't worry about it. You don't have to tell anybody. I mean, this is the thing. You just gradually find your pace. Now, what's going to make you do that? Well, practice. But you have to motivate yourself to do it. You have to say to yourself, I'm interested in finding out. I'm so afraid I can't do it that I won't even try to do it. Whatever's going on in your mind. And when you think about starting slow with these, and also you don't do it for long. They all the instructions say, get up while it's pleasant. Yeah. So don't skip those part of the instructions. You should get up while it's pleasant. Otherwise, you will learn to hate it because that's what you're practicing. God, this is miserable, and then that's what you're practicing. So it's really, some people, either because of where they are in their lives, will try anything. And so they really need something, and that really motivates them. So when I was trying to be a nice wife, I was really motivated. I did not succeed. Anyway, but I was really motivated to guard my speech. And I had to constantly, I mean, literally, constantly, don't open your mouth, don't open your mouth, don't open your mouth. That was my whole mantra. Don't open your mouth, don't open your mouth, don't open your mouth. You know, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? Don't open your mouth. For a year, I was doing that because I'm a hard case. You know, so, but I was highly motivated. We have, you know, I can't do that now. I can't sit there going, don't open your mouth, don't open your, I'm not highly motivated about anybody in my life. Like, I can go away. You know, I'm cheesy. But the point is, motivation really matters. And so we really do have to think, if I keep showing up to a Buddhist thing every week, why am I not doing any of the practices? What do I think, what magical thing do I think is going to happen just by showing up? You know, nothing. Nothing magic's going to happen. It is not magic, it's effort. You know, but we can go as gently as we need to. You know, this is not a test. Your life is not a test. It's not a competition. It's really about finding ways, you know, like some people never sit in meditation. They do their meditations on their feet their whole time. You know, they don't do. I was listening to a talk by Jeffrey Hopkins, you know, the professor at UVA that did a lot of books like Emptiness,
A lot of books.
a lot of books, taught for years. He passed away this summer. And so somebody, Bicycle Wisdom, I don't know, somebody's podcast had an old interview with him. He started out meditating in college, I guess, lying down. And he did that for years, you know. And he was able, but you know, you have to have that ability to lie down, keep your eyes open, and stay awake. Not my best method. So, but you know, the point is, if you have body pain, if it's very hard for you to sit upright and not have the pain overwhelm you, lie down. I mean, it's one of the methods the Buddha described: lying down, sitting, standing, maybe walking. Because in any list, I can only remember one short of the list. So, so sometimes the way to approach trying to figure out a motivation is to look at why you don't want to do it, you know, and kind of unravel that a little bit. You know. So just to give you some clues about what you might be able to use to encourage yourself to do it. One of the things that comes up for people, especially early on, but it can happen anytime because things change and something comes up and, you know, starts happening again. And that's that you know, you notice all these habits you have that aren't attractive, that you're not thrilled about, and it helps feed the habit of self-dislike. So we have to be aware of that. Just, you know, like, okay, I'm getting in the habit of noticing that I have an angry mind or a judgmental mind or a sarcastic mind or a cynical mind or I don't know, just not nice mind, you know. If we don't balance that with noticing all the nice minds we have, you know, we can get into a spiral of thinking, you know, this is who I am, this terrible person. When all it is that you're finally looking at what goes on in your mind And a lot of things go on in your mind, and some of them aren't so pretty, and that's normal. We're not Buddhas. This is what happens. This is all comes from our ignorance. This is this idea that somehow we think happiness comes from chasing after what we like, and happiness or lack of suffering comes from avoiding everything that we don't like, and we're not doing the inner work. But we're putting everything in this us and them, kind of attitude, like if somebody's doing something I don't like, they're wrong. They're wrong to do that. They're wrong to have that opinion. They're wrong to have whatever it is. We just kind of put that in that category of, I don't like it, so it's not right. So please go away. Do it somewhere else. Whatever. Or we try to prove to them, that how wrong they are. So we might discover some qualities about ourselves, and they're just habits. It's not actually a quality of ourselves. It's just that self-centeredness running amok, wanting what we want when we want it, and not being very tolerant of when we don't get it. Or we're totally tolerant of it, but we think about it incessantly in our mind after the fact. Why can't they? Whatever it is. So one of the things that's helpful, is equanimity. So equanimity is being able to develop an evenness of mind towards all beings, in order to not just keep putting people in these little boxes, bad person, good person, nice person, interesting person, boring person, and then hateable person. We put ourselves in that box if we're not busy hating someone else, So equanimity helps us get rid of the box, because the boxes are changeable. So when you look at friends, enemies, strangers in your life, where do they all start?
Strangers.
They're all strangers, okay? But that changes, right? Are all the people that become friends, do they all stay friends?
If they become a stranger.
They become strangers. We move, they can become strangers again. I'm sorry.
They might become an enemy.
They might become an enemy because they say one of those things you don't like. Oh, and then they do it again. And then it's like a problem. It's very changeable. Do you have any friends that were former enemies? Like say a coworker or something, then you would discover, oh, I actually kind of like them. I thought they were trying to get my job. I don't know. I'm making up these stories. So it's changeable in all directions. It can go from a really bad relationship to a good relationship. Then it could go back to being strangers because, there are only so many people we can fit in our lives. And things change. We move, we do that, and all that stuff changes. You have kids, your friends don't have kids, and then, things just get further apart. Well, we want to look at the way we talk to ourselves as well, because we do it to ourselves too. So we have moments that we kind of like ourselves. We have moments that we completely ignore ourselves. We have moments that we hate ourselves. We make ourselves into friend, enemy, stranger. And there's no logic to any of it because it's changeable. No one stays a friend forever. No one does anything wonderful except Buddhas forever. And even Buddhas can do things that you personally won't like because we don't understand. It's not in our self-interest. So our self-interest, our belief that getting the self, what it wants, obscures our ability to see all the possibilities. Maybe not. Okay, so. No. The short answer to that is no. Does anybody remember what I was saying? No, you see, none of us are very good at it. It's so embarrassing. We have a recording. We'll listen later.
Thanks a lot.
Minute 45 on the recording.
Minute what?
Minute 45 on the
Minute
recording.
45 on the recording. So fast forward. So, oh, that's what she said. I don't agree, but that's what she said. So. We need to start looking at whether the habit of putting people in boxes, including ourselves, is useful. Why do we think it's useful?
Self-protection.
Why would it be self-protecting?
It's also, how can I control that? And I want to be right. So if I put them in a box, I'm right.
Yeah, they're in that box, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it lessens the fear of the unknown.
I think that's a big part of it. I think that's why we think it's self-protecting. And so we think, oh, they're not safe, so put them in a box and then we'll know to guard ourselves against them. They're making me unhappy. They're wrong. I couldn't possibly be wrong, so it's protecting our self-image, It's, we do these things because we like predictability. What does that remind us of? Familiarity. We like what's familiar. And we really think, have you ever had, that experience where your friend comes over and says something you kind of just, did she really say that? Because you can't believe they said that. Because you have an idea of who they are and you think it's complete. So first of all, it's not complete. Second of all, it's not even right. Because it's just who you see them as. It has nothing to do with who they are. That is even true of ourselves. When we have our little self-loathing come in, right in that moment, what are we doing? I know I say it's not a test, but I act like it's a test. Well, we believe it and we're doing we're just, but we're exaggerating, aren't we? So just like we do it with friends, enemies, strangers, we exaggerate something. The enemies, we've exaggerated their negative qualities. And there may actually be no negative qualities. We may have misread something. And we run amok with it, And most of us, we're grown-ups, we've gotten out of some of that. Not the judging part, but the so quick to put somebody in the bad person box. But we're still doing it. And sometimes we're occupying the box and we're putting everybody in boxes. And it's all based on these brief encounters that are incomplete views. And they're based on what the Buddha said was our fundamental mistake, which is we're confused about how we exist in the first place.
Is that what you call compartmentalizing?
Yeah, you could call it compartmentalizing. Yes. And how do you,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Mary.
Isn't this something we've been doing all our lives?
And guess what? The Buddha said even the ones before that. Yeah, we've been doing it our whole lives. So what? How could we possibly break away from that practice?
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
No.
One of the things is we want to quit thinking it's impossible. And sometimes we have to think back and think about things when we were kids or teenagers that we thought, no, not doable. You know, and then they were. It's just not true when we tell ourselves it's not doable. Some things are harder than others. I can't become a brain surgeon, you know, I probably couldn't have even when I was young. You know, so it's not that we don't have limitations. It's just that this idea that we can't change our habits, we created them. Yes, we can change them. People didn't make us this way. We developed ourselves this way. You know, maybe we imitated this parent because, you know, whatever, they look like they were more powerful or nicer. I didn't do any of that imitation. I just did the more powerful. And it was a lie, by the way.
And it could be part of our karma. And
No, karma is habit. It's a habit. Actions place little imprints on our mind stream, and not literally like this. It's just hard not to have some physical thing to point to. You know, places something in our mind stream, a tendency. It becomes a tendency when we've done it more than once. You know what it means? A habit. So that when we meet similar circumstances, similar conditions, it just kicks in. We just do the same thing we've done in other similar conditions. You know, we feel cheated in certain situations. You know, we feel, you know, like if you're one of those people who believes the cash register always breaks when you're in line, in that line, and it doesn't break necessarily until you're at the front of that line. You know, we've developed a habit of that. You know, we thought, of course, that's when I get in line. This doesn't happen to anybody. You know, it's just the stupid, narrow perspective that we do. And we don't think it has anything to do with our suffering, and it does. Because we believe it. You know, and then we're justified in our suffering. So that you can even have a, I mean, I'm exaggerating this on purpose, you know, but when you start to look at your mind, you'll see these patterns where you even, if you really look before you even walk in the store, there's a part of you that believes something's going to go wrong when you get in line to pay, and it's going to take longer than you think it's going to. Now that sounds absurd, but it's because we're looking for familiarity. We want predictability. And so we create these stories that feed that desire. But you have to look for a long time to notice these things. You know, it's like for me, because I am that person who gets mad at the grocery store, you know. So, you know, it's that sort of like noticing when I'm in line going, oh, you're getting worried that something's going to go wrong and you're late. You're looking at your watch. You know, I can put the pieces together.
just said that we should, like, attention.
Right.
Grocery store, go to
Customer in line 3 is nuts. You know. But so when you start to look at your mind, this is one of the dangers, is that you'll take these habits of mind and you will exaggerate yourself into thinking that you are the worst possible person. I am the most impatient person on the planet. Well, it's not true. Other people share the same level, at least, of impatience in their own conditions, you know? Yeah.
Almost like your mind is playing a prank with you.
Yes. Yes. It's so weird. Anyway, but it comes in this confusion, this thinking I have to get what I want in order for to be okay. You know, and that includes anything. I getting waited on, you know, not catching the red light, not doing, you know, all these little, you know, whatever irritations that build up to dissatisfaction with the day. There's kind of like, ugh, you know.
Is the opposite possible?
No.
Okay. Conditioned that you have such a wonderful experience every time you come to the Buddhist center here.
Yeah, I mean, you can do, yeah, and then you won't. It's all changeable. But if you have the mind that is trained to look at what's working, then you'll have that kind of experience.
So what again are we trying to replace this with?
What are we,
This-
what this are we
This
trying to
prediction,
replace?
This thing that we do where we're predicting everything that's going to happen.
Well, that's expectation. You know, so that's the part that we have to understand. Does this work for me? So we discover patterns. Then we have to look at, is this working for me? Is this skillful or not skillful? Can I really predict what's going to happen? So is my thinking all about the family vacation or the family visit, you know, with all the possible things and thinking, oh, it's going to be Aunt Joan again and she's going to be a real pain and it's going to be da 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 da. No, is that useful? You know, oh, I'm going to this restaurant. You know, I can't wait to have this dish because I love this dish. You know, what happens? They're out of that dish. It's no longer on the menu.
Chef changed.
Chef changed. So it's not the right dish. Yeah, you know, women and their bras. Anybody have this experience?
Still,
It's like, really, really, you've quit making that one? I'm run out of choices. You're gonna quit. You know, everything changes. And we keep thinking, my happiness was in there. You know, that's the mistake we make. So that's why we need to use reasoning to be able to see, oh, I think happiness is in there. I think getting my way is gonna make me happy. And then you have to go, is that true? And you have to look through your life and recognize, well, that's not necessarily true. You know, we've all gotten things we've wanted and we've forgotten about them within weeks or days. I was laughing with Adrian and Nicole yesterday that I opened a cabinet the other day in my kitchen and saw all these appliances that are still in their boxes. You know, COVID was deadly for shopping. Everybody delivered. So I'm thinking, I can have a sale stuff at my house I've never touched. You know, we really need to notice. I mean, one of the things we want to notice when we're looking and when we're paying attention is how many times did something turn out differently than what we thought? And what's our habit with that? Are we just open to that? Are we kind of like frustrated by that? You know, we want to see what habits of mind we have. And then we want to recognize that we can work on that. So when we discover, Jack has doubt big on his face.
No, I mean, we're our mind is trying to predict things all the time.
Yep.
And then when it doesn't turn out that way, it's like, aren't we doing some feedback so that we can make better predictions? Sorry to do that right at the wrong time.
You could be doing it for that purpose. Is it useful to do it for that purpose?
No.
How about if you didn't do it? How about if you entered every moment of your life with no expectations? Yeah, I know. So we had to be curious about what would that be like?
A lot of freedom.
Why?
You have to release. There's a lot of release in that.
So play with that a little bit, because I agree with you, but that doesn't mean I'm right. You know,
I think you're working for you.
don't take my word for it.
This is a difference between like expectation, and I use this word, I know desire, that's have negative connotation, but and a desired outcome. So
Well, they're sort of the same thing, aren't they? I mean, because you can also look at aversion, you know, dislike of something as an attachment to getting what you want. You know, so it's all about desire.
Yeah, I'm thinking, but I guess like functioning without expectation, what that mean? So I need to finish this tax return. What is that? An intention?
That's a plan.
This is the completed return.
Okay, so
Is-
it's gonna make me happy.
Well, then, okay.
I
so
won't have to, that's it.
what would I
I'll be
call
done
it?
for the year.
Yeah, but what would I call it, I guess, if I'm trying not to have an expectation, but it's something that I'm doing for my.
Well, we have to have, it's not that we don't plan and not that we don't finish things, not that we do things. It's that our expectation of some sort of emotional reward or punishment at the end of these things is ridiculous. That's where we go wrong. Oh, my happiness is in getting all my chores done. You know, the world will end if I don't get all my chores done. Oh, I can't let a guest come over with my, floor unmopped. My circle of girlfriends, had to make a deal that we wanted to spend time together. So not clean, your house not being clean was not a good excuse for not having people over. Because we never saw each other. If we use that as a standard. So we finally just said, okay, we're gonna let go of that. So we can see each other. Now, what did that take? It took us all being aware that we did that. That there was a part of us who would go, no, I have to clean my house. I'm sorry, I can't make it, or or we don't invite anybody or whatever. We had to recognize that and then decide that wasn't useful.
Yeah, I have noticed that wherever I go and I'm invited, they clean the house.
Some people
And then
use it
I
as the
thought,
only
is
reason.
that- Yeah, that's me. Are they uncomfortable if I'm coming there and I might judge them because the house is not clean?
It's not about
And-
you.
Yeah,
We're not in anybody else's story.
okay. Good.
I know it's disappointing in some
Oh,
aspects.
no.
It's a relief in other aspects. But that first, when you have that thought of, is it me? Oh, you can pretty much kind of know that probably not. That's our self-centeredness that does that. That thinks we're the center of the universe. No, it's them.
I would say even if they're doing that to impress you, it's not because of you.
It's because of
There's
them.
self-preservation or something that they're trying to do something for themselves, even if you're in the story.
It could be. It could be because, I mean, that could be the reason. You don't know unless you ask them.
No, but they don't know. They're going to say, oh, because you were coming up. No, what it is that I use a person coming over as an excuse to clean. I mean, I do that. I know, I understand that one. Or it's important to my reputation that people see me as having a clean house. Or most people don't look at things.
So it's not because I'm coming.
No,
Because
it's because
somebody else
they
would
have
come and they wouldn't do it, but because I'm coming,
Right.
they're cleaning house.
No, it's because they have a logic. We all have our own story going. And we think it's really enmeshed with us when actually they're kind of never touch. And that's true of us as well. So all that blame we do, it's your fault, it's not true. We're choosing. And if it doesn't go the way we want it to, then we go, it's your fault. So that's a big mistake. This is what expectations do for us.
But then I think, because I'm the center of the universe, that if I make them do that, do they do it because they think I'm judging?
Oh my
them?
goodness.
And that's where I go.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you
That-
just made the whole story about you, which is where we all go. And this is a
Yeah.
problem. This is one of the habits we want to notice, that we're so caught up in thinking everything is about me and, and that we don't even enjoy each other.
Yeah.
It's just like, we really have to see where we're glued to other people's opinions. And just like our opinions actually rarely reflect any aspect of the truth, because ours are completely from our filters through our garbage. This is why the more we cannot have expectations, the more that we recognize, oh, friend, enemy, stranger, blah, 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 all those categories we put people in, are not useful. because we don't see anything outside of those once we put them in the box. You know? So we miss all kinds of opportunities. So all kinds of people that could be friends, you know, will never be friends because we put them in a box that says no friend. Not possible. Don't like their opinions. Da, 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 da.
Maybe I do that because I don't like me.
Yes.
How can they like me?
Yeah, we
But
do
if I
that
put them in a box, then I don't have to deal with them not like.
because you don't like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to work on that. We want to get out of our own boxes. And meditation can help us with that. Reflecting, noticing, where's my mind at? Why am I starting to get all, we might not be able to do it. We most often don't, you know, in the beginning, this particularly, we don't notice it. I mean, we can't do anything with it in the event. That's why we have to reflect later. Go, what was going on with me? What is that? And in quiet and stillness can help it bubble up so that you can identify it. And my thing is just to ask, you know, the 7 whys or something they say, Japanese. Yeah. Well, why? But it's also just recognizing. So the question I ask myself is, where am I in this picture? You know, what is it that I want, need, blah, blah, blah. You know, where am I in this? And then I can go, oh, because I really want this to happen. I want them to think this, or I want them to do, and then I can kind of let go. You know, because I then recognize I can't control their side of things. You know, I can't do that. You know, and I need to quit worrying about that because it's making me do crazy things. So we have to, you know, it's just, you know, we look and we analyze, we look, we analyze and look, we go, ooh, I was wrong about that. You know, it's an ongoing process and it becomes so habitual that you notice pretty much everything, you know, what you're doing in your mind. Don't notice maybe out here, like you can't remember what you just said, but you know, but it's this process of paying attention to the only thing you can control, which is your mind. You know? So it's really valuable to learn how to do that. Now, it doesn't.
Is there any value in putting people in certain boxes?
You'd have to find one.
Like I have you in a whole different box. Everybody else in this room.
Yeah, and that's dangerous.
That is.
Yeah, because you're going to go take me out to lunch someday,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do something. You're going to go, I had no idea that she would think that. And then I've toppled the box, fallen out of it, you know, and you can't ever put me back in the box, and you may not ever listen to a word out of my mouth. And, you know, I have something to offer.
But isn't there such a thing as devotion to this?
Yes. And you know what? One of the pieces of advice is don't spend too much time with your teacher. Because of this, exactly because of this. You know, because you know, it's like, it's really kind of funny. I mean, I remember just like in some of the teachings, the old teachings, you know, I'll say, better to live in, you know, on the next mountain. So you're coming to see your teacher so often. So yes, but guru devotion, you have to be very careful about, first of all, who you choose to be guru devotedly to. So, yeah. And then if you do choose someone to be devoted to, then you try not to look at their faults because that's going to undermine your confidence in the teachings. You know, it's a very tough subject. I mean, it really is hard. You know, so, and their advice is if the teacher does something that you just can't understand, at all to walk away from the teacher without thinking negative thoughts about the teacher. Just let them go. You know. So anyway, but you know, it's a danger when we put people in boxes because we give them no room. I'm sorry, I've outgrown my box. I've eaten too much chocolate ice cream over the summer. I just had a leg cramp. Excuse me. Just thinking about ice cream gives me a leg cramp. That should tell me something. Okay, so we really need to understand that this constant story creating in our heads is something we might want to let go of. And so what that requires is paying attention to when we're doing it and then choose not to keep following that train of thought. You know, that it's not helpful. It builds expectations. And then it's like, you know, it's like that, you know, this is why we have expressions like self-fulfilling prophecies. You know, because no matter what happens, we're going to see something differently because of what the story we've created. This does not mean that everyone is trustworthy, that everybody is a good friend, that everybody is all these things. It isn't that we can't learn something and then make a choice. I'm not hanging out with them. It's not good for me. Different than I'm not hanging out with them because they're bad people.
Mhm.
You know. So we want to be able to be discerning about how we judge as well. You know, because it's not like everybody's doing good things, is it? So there are people that we don't want to hang out with because they're not doing good things. We know nothing about them, their minds, what's going on with them, what their backgrounds, whatever, you know. But we know we don't want to do those activities, those actions. So I'm not going to hang out with them. You know, like if you have friends who really like to gossip and be very judgy about other people, you know, you may need to take a break from that if you're trying to break that habit in your own mind. You know, just because it's too hard to do it, you know, we have the habit too. So we just get dragged along. So you kind of have to take a break from that that can even become the mindfulness practice. Whereas you go, you listen and you don't talk. You don't join in, you don't criticize, you just notice. So you notice how you feel listening to it. You notice, you know, whether you think it's useful or not. You know, you just notice. Because when we talk that way in our own heads, we're doing the same thing. We're going to have similar experiences, you know. And it's rarely that we feel better. What's one of the fears we have with our friends who do that?
When we're not there.
Guess who's the subject?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So always be there.
You know, so we have to be careful. So it isn't about that. Of course, we have to use our discernment. Of course, we want to make it, you know, we have to assess, do we think these actions are skillful or not skillful or whatever? But it's not about them. It's not about, I want to control what you do. It's more like, I'm not going to choose to do that. You know, because this good or bad thing it gets problematic. What you think? How do you do it? Anything?
A little at a time,
Huh?
gradually.
Okay, so gradually, we mentioned that you need to start gently, slowly, you know, give yourself, you know, manageable amounts of time of reflecting in this way. What else did we mention?
I think the
is also very important to the benefits of it. So once you start doing it, then you see, oh, I'm getting this. Oh,
Really noticing. That's the one advantage of becoming good at noticing, is you also notice the benefits. So before you start, you want to also say, I want to do this because it might have some benefit. And I'm curious to find out. Once you've already started, then you already probably have seen some benefit and you want to reinforce that, especially when you don't feel like doing it that day. So you do it for less time. Now, because there are going to be days where you can't do it. Something happens and you can't do it. Although my favorite places to meditate are things like airports and emergency rooms. When you're waiting, you can always, when you're waiting, it makes waiting so much more pleasant because you're sort of no longer waiting. You're doing something. You're busy,
That at a cash register.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's like me driving behind the two cyclists today, going, yeah, this is annoying. Okay, but so what? And then you see that car. I mean, I couldn't believe that car passed all of us. And it was just like, well, that's dangerous. I don't think I'll do that. So it really, mindfulness is just this wonderful tool to, occupy yourself in a useful way when you're waiting. So I strongly encourage it. Yeah.
That's interesting. It comes back to the point at the beginning when you were talking about what to do with your mind when you're engaged in activity. So when you're more of a passive participant, is that a good practice to meditate? So, for example, sitting in the barber's chair,
Yeah.
in the hygienist, while you're getting your teeth cleaned. I was thinking, okay, I always use that as a practice. And can I be mindful the entire time?
Yeah.
But then I found myself, well, if I'm focusing on my breath or my thoughts, am I distracting myself from what's happening around me?
And maybe
I
that's a
found
good
myself
thing.
kind
Maybe,
of-
the
So I
dentist
found
chair seems like a
myself
good thing.
Yeah,
We have to.
it was,
Yeah. It's like you're not doing anything. So it's not like you can't be harming by meditating, What I like to do in the dentist chair, because I'm not thrilled of the dentist, is I remember that I'm thrilled to have a dentist. And it's like, okay, this might, I don't like all the pain and misery I've had at the dentist, but at least I have a dentist, and at least I still have some of my teeth, but also I have an end to the pain that whatever the dental problem is. And probably most of the planet does not have that. We forget those things.
Most of the history.
Well, in history, absolutely. But I mean, it's just like, it's this recognition. Because I'm always amazed that as an adult, I choose to do things that are going to hurt. It's like, who made that rule? It's much easier as a child just being dragged to the dentist, not my fault. They're making me go, and then now I have to make myself go. Like, but anyway, so it's a good time to think about our good conditions that we have these opportunities, or it's a good time to think about all the other people in the, that are right this moment in the dentist chair, terrified. Like me, yeah. And then you send out good thoughts to them. You just, like when I'm on a plane, that's what I do on the plane. I think I'm not the only person scared of flying on this plane. I spent an entire plane trip one time holding the hand of the person across on the aisle who was clearly terrified, more terrified than I was. I can tell you, I was not terrified. I was not thinking about that at all. So the more we can spend energy sending out, like, okay, I'm in a situation that I'm not comfortable with. I'm not the only person. There are countless people in this very, very moment who are having this uncomfortable situation. And you can think, oh, I feel you. Because this is the truth of suffering. We suffer. But we don't have to add suffering to it. A lot of people just berate themselves. Oh, if I had taken better care of myself, I wouldn't be, having to go to the hospital. Da, da, da. That's no help. You know, it is true that some of these things can be, you know, like a billboard saying you need to do something differently. Absolutely true. You know, when we discover, you know, habits that we have that are not nice, that don't make us happier, that, you know, blah, blah. Oh, well, maybe I can change that. That's the, you know, wisdom aspect. We're not stuck. We have to see, we have to realistically see, and then we can choose. I'm going to work on that right now. Don't make too long of a list. Take the things that do the most harm first. Work on those. Any other thoughts? But sitting on good feelings is really a pleasant activity. You know, you're visiting someone in the hospital or you're in the hospital, you know, thinking about, you know, just everybody else who's in the same boat as you. I mean, this is one of those clues that thinking of others brings us happiness, and thinking of ourselves doesn't. You know, so because the more we focus on, oh, I'm having to wait, or this hurts, or da 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 da, you know, it heightens that suffering. You know, and the more we're thinking about, oh, I hope all the others here are not experiencing this. I hope it ends for them quickly. I hope that you're focusing on that. That's a lot of mind training, is just recognizing that we're already focused on something. We might as well make that something skillful. But it's usually we're just focusing on ourselves. And that's not particularly useful. So.
But how are we going to learn if we are not focusing on the reactions that we are?
We do have to focus on ourselves. That's sort of the paradox. You know, is that we have to notice what's going on with ourselves, but we don't have to go into story making. You know, oh, what does this say about me? Oh, what does this, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, we don't have to make any story. We just notice, oh, I think I won't say anything more because I'm not in a good place. And whatever comes out of my mouth is not going to be nice.
Right.
You know,
It's self-reflection.
yeah, the self-reflection and the non-blaming. I may not be in a good place, but it's nobody around me's fault that I'm not in a good place. Yeah.
And that's the part of learning.
Yeah, and that's a part of the learning. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not necessarily easy. So. Okay. Questions, thoughts, arguments, disagreements, frustrations.
Well, am I right when you told me that I can end my meditation when it no longer, when I feel
Do it before that.
really?
Really.
I've never heard anyone say that.
I'm sorry about that.
But I think I definitely will now do this because I know that when it starts to feel that way, I can end
Sounds like a.
Before.
before. I have to do it before.
Well, that's a practice too, you know, because you have to notice. But as soon as you notice, I hate this, dedicate and move on.
Okay.
Just say, oh, and rejoice. Oh, I was able to do it for 37 seconds.
Yeah, I can do it longer than that.
Well, then even bigger rejoice. You know, we want to rejoice every day. And this is one thing that comes from noticing. You want to benefit is you got more to rejoice because you can see, oh, you know, that's a nice thought. You know, rejoice. Oh, I didn't say that. Rejoice. You know, these count. I try to be mindful during my walk. Rejoice. We don't have to wait until we reach some goal. There's no goal here. You know, you could die in the next minute. So you might as well feel good in this month. Yeah.
My mother, in her last years of life, she was suffering from dementia. And so we went to our individual rooms. She was going to meditate. And after the meditation, she said, well, it certainly is difficult to count to 10.
Yeah.
But she was trying.
It's fabulous. You know, So, yeah, I mean, it's just really, yeah. So the first measure of success is showing up. The second measure is maybe doing something when you show up. Yeah. You know, small. Let me just used to say, slowly. This is the deal. So anyway, all right, we need to dedicate. So now we rejoice, we go, oh, okay. I spent my time trying to learn some new techniques. Maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't, maybe they'll be good, maybe they won't, whatever. But I'm trying to learn. And that's something to rejoice about. And the Buddha said that these things place positive imprints on the mental continuum, but they will ripen when you meet the appropriate conditions in a pleasant or constructive way, not a destructive way. And so, our dedications are all about just giving that away, just being generous with, oh, may all my ripen on others who are suffering in this moment or whatever, And you also want to kind of, for those of you who are more experienced, that you want to kind of tack on that idea until, everybody's enlightened, because then your good results will last a very long time. And that's really good. So, Nana, do you have the Shantideva's verses and stuff in front of you? Can you share that, please?
46.
It's page 246 in the book. Hi, Penny. So, so it's really good to start these kinds of prayers with just that feeling of, okay, I did good, and now I'm going to share the results of that with others. All right. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind attain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creatures suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then our long life prayers for our teachers, like His Holiness, on page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then for the quick return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who was all these sinners. That's on page, what is it, 234 in the 234. Okay. Okay. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Never through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones. May the smile of the reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So I think this is election week. So I think that considering the state of our country, it's really important to try to have good thoughts about all the people in this country, no matter what their beliefs are. We all live here together. We're all trying to figure it out, and we have very different opinions on it, but we don't need any more anger energy in the world. So it's just, more that we can just keep hoping, and praying for people getting their needs met and feeling safe and, all that kind of stuff. We don't, everything changes. So.
Jackie asked to mention about a retreat that OCEL is doing in Mexico. It starts on, it's called HAK, H-A-K. Anybody's interested, they can leave their email address, we can send the information. It's in Mexico, just about an hour and a half south of Mexico City. It's going to start on November 27th, and it goes until December the 1st.
What website is it on?
OCEL's website.
Which is?
Yeah, I have to check. Okay, it's Habitat Alignment T.org.
Oh, that's easy
I'll
to
put it on
find.
the chat.
Okay, so, but you can also type in Tenzin Ozel, or Ozel Hita. He is the reincarnation of Lama Yeshe. Is this person. And he's not a monk, but he's leading a retreat in Mexico, and I guess it's going to be online as well, or maybe not, I don't know. But if you're interested, please take a look. He's a younger, he's like, I don't know how old he is. He's lots younger than me, but not this young. Anyway, there's also this afternoon, Vajrapani, who's a retreat, which is a retreat center in California, going to read the Golden Light Sutra this evening from like 6 to 7. It's on Zoom on their website, to help with the tension in the country. So reading the words of the Buddha is supposed to help, puts out positive energy. What else do I know?
Thursday, what are we supposed to be reading for Thursday?
Wisdom energy, like you can read chapter 3 or chapter 5, because we read 4. If you haven't read 4, read 4.
So 3 or 5?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It's easy to read stuff. Just get it.
It is easy, but you don't have to. First chapter is about meditation. Second chapter is about something else. Third chapter is about understanding where suffering comes from or something, and then how delusions arise, and then what to do. I don't know.
Going the mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that stuff?
Just keep reading. I don't know. Figure it out. Also, that in my group of nuns that get together on Zoom from time to time, we'll be saying prayers on election day. These are just things we can do, is to just, think if you have any worries at all, just try to think, send out some positive energy, So instead of worrying, just, who knows, when, expectations, are not helpful. So, Okay. And remember that, like things like we just saw, when, Helene and, these storms or whatever, everybody helps each other. Nobody says, I'm sorry, who are you voting for? I'm not going to help you. I mean, that's not what happens. So that's really important to remember, is that, we may disagree, but, we haven't left our humanity behind. So, it's really important to remember that. So, okay. So thank you so much for your time and your questions, your participation and all that kind of good stuff. Take good care and have a meaningful week. Is that all we need to say? Okay.